The first time I caught Brenda, the homeowners association president, gliding through my pool like she owned the place, I just stared for a second, because, really, who expects to see a 70-year-old in a pink swim cap doing laps in your private backyard? I was annoyed, but honestly, I thought maybe she'd gotten lost, wandered in from a garden tour or something. Except this wasn't the first time, or even the second. By the fifth, I was planning her downfall. See, Brenda had this badge, plastic, shiny, president in block letters, that she wore like it was a royal medallion, and she seemed to believe it gave her authority not just over the faded roses at the neighborhood entrance or the beige mailbox paint, but over my own slice of heaven behind the fence. Every time she looked at me, it was with that little smirk, like my insistence on privacy and property rights was some weird personality flaw she was trying to cure by example. What Brenda didn't know, you know what I mean, was that I spent 40 years rooting out flaws in buildings for a living. My entire career was about finding the one weak spot that could bring down an empire of steel or concrete. So when she made my life miserable, she made the classic mistake. She picked the wrong guy to bully. Let me back up a sec. My name's Alex. Before I retired, I was a senior civil engineer specializing in structural assessments and zoning law. My wife, Sarah, she's a landscape architect with opinions about everything from grass height to irrigation timers, and we saved for decades to buy a place with its own pool. We were done with shared walls, forced small talk at the community pool, and the tyranny of committee meetings about shrubbery. We wanted peace, privacy, a backyard where the only rules were ours. But the day Brenda first showed up, that illusion shattered like glass under a cinder block. It was almost funny at first. I spotted her in the pool from my office window, gaudy floral swimsuit, silver hair under that blinding cap. "Excuse me," I called, trying to sound calm. She stopped, treading water like she was doing me a favor. "Oh, hello, Alex. Just making sure everything's up to code." She gave me this little pat on the arm, dripping pool water all over my tiles, telling me as president, everything in the community is a community asset. That's a real quote. Then she lectured me on some bylaw about poolside shrubs, unlocked my side gate, and left like she was late for tea with the queen. Dealing with someone like Brenda, it's like running into a wall that refuses to admit it's blocking your way. She didn't just bend reality, she tried to rewrite it. Have you ever met someone like that? You start to question if you're the one losing it. But she'd miscalculated. She thought I was just another pushover, the kind of retiree who'd get steamrolled by big personalities and bogus rules. She didn't know the man whose job was finding fatal cracks in seemingly solid foundations. So, I did what any reasonable neighbor would. I took her the survey for my property, highlighted every line about private land, pointed at the actual HOA bylaws, and politely told her to stay out. She looked so bored I almost laughed. "Alex, you're being divisive. The spirit of the law is about cohesion." She actually threatened to file a note in my permanent homeowner file, as if that's a thing. When reason failed, I wrote a formal letter, certified mail and all, listing dates and laws, and demanding she stay off my property. What did I get in response? A $200 fine for unsecured attractive nuisance, my pool, which, by their logic, had to be inspected more often since Brenda couldn't stop trespassing. That's some circular thinking for you. Sarah, my wife, finally had enough. "This isn't about safety. This is a power trip," she said, waving the fine like a white flag. Sure enough, next weekend, I come home to a full-blown pool party in my backyard. Brenda holding court on my lounge chair, her 3 cronies and their spouses, a cooler leaking all over my stonework, 80s pop blaring from my own speaker. "It's a board meeting, Alex. We needed privacy," she said, sipping my best Chardonnay. I blew up. "You're trespassing. All of you. Out." She didn't budge, threatened another fine, insisted it was an official function. That was the moment something snapped in me. No more nice engineer. Brenda wasn't my problem anymore. The whole rotten HOA was. You know how every system has a weak spot? For the HOA, it was their beloved clubhouse, that vinyl-sided monstrosity at the neighborhood entrance, their seat of power. I started digging, not for dirt, but for blueprints. I spent 3 days in a dusty records room at the HOA office, combing through decades of minutes, financials, contracts, and permits. Carol, the HOA clerk, clearly hated Brenda but had a job to keep. "You sure you want to go through all that paper?" she sighed. "I have time. I said. You can learn a lot about a person from what they ignore. All the money wasted on petunias and vanity signs, years of power grabs and meeting notes. But what mattered was the clubhouse. Deep in the files, I found the original permit from 1988, stamped temporary structure. It was meant to be a sales office, not a community center. It was supposed to be removed or converted to code within 5 years. Final house sold in 1991. No record of any conversion, no certificate of occupancy, no updates. For over 30 years, the HOA ran out of an illegal, condemned fire trap. This was the weak point, the fatal flaw. Suddenly, I had a new project: tear down the heart of Brenda's power with her own negligence. My plan: prove the clubhouse was unsafe and illegal, get the county to condemn it, spark a financial crisis that would destroy Brenda's influence. I spent weeks learning every code update since 1988, mapping violations from ADA compliance to fire suppression to seismic upgrades. My spreadsheet had 40-plus issues, each one a nail in the clubhouse's coffin. Next, I needed proof. From my property line, I took telephoto shots of cracks and water damage. Hired a drone to capture the sagging roof, eroded foundation, everything. Brenda, meanwhile, doubled down, sent a contractor to install a lock on my gate that only she used, then billed me for a safety upgrade. She watched me with that little smirk, thinking I was just gathering evidence for a frivolous lawsuit. She had no idea what was coming. But every mission needs allies. First, Carol, the tired clerk. I met her for coffee and just vented about rising dues. She unloaded, telling me about the busted HVAC, the leaking roof, all the critical maintenance Brenda ignored in favor of flower budgets and her nephew's hack repairs. Then my friend Dave, a retired master electrician, he took one look at the clubhouse panel and said it was a fire waiting to happen. Wires chewed, panels obsolete, no proper grounding. He gladly wrote it up in a notarized affidavit. I assembled it all: permits, photos, affidavits, cost estimates. 3 copies, one for county code enforcement, one for the fire marshal, and one for the local investigative journalist. Monday morning, I walked into the government office, handed the report to Frank Henderson, the division head, and spelled it out. 30 years of violations, unsafe building, no permits. It's a ticking time bomb. His face went from skeptical to alarmed as he read. Expect an unannounced inspection, he said. The fire marshal's office acted even faster. We'll red tag it tomorrow if it's half as bad as you say. That afternoon, the news hit the neighborhood Facebook group, a picture of the red tag clubhouse. Condemned. Unsafe for occupancy. Dozens of violations. The online comments exploded. But then the newspaper article dropped. Hidden Valley HOA clubhouse condemned. Decades of dangerous negligence uncovered. The whole community turned, not against the county, but against Brenda. She scrambled, called an emergency HOA meeting. Only now, with the clubhouse condemned, she had to hold it in the public park across the street. It was poetic. Dozens showed up, some with chairs and coffee, printouts of the article. Brenda tried to blame everyone but herself, painted herself as the victim of bureaucratic overreach and a vindictive neighbor. She glanced at me, but I just stood, calm. Then, I stepped forward, turned on a projector, and showed the original permit, the photos, the fire marshal's words. This is negligence, not malice, I told the crowd. Every one of you deserved to know the risk and where your money was going. Brenda cracked, yelling that it was all about my pool. A quiet accountant named George stood and said, I don't care about the pool. I care that my family was put at risk. What if there'd been a fire? The crowd erupted. The pool was irrelevant. The community saw the truth. They'd been exposed to danger, lied to, and now faced a massive bill. George moved for a vote of no confidence. Brenda and her cronies were out in an instant, replaced by a new committee of actual adults. The aftermath was quick. Quotes for repairs came in. $500,000 to fix the clubhouse, $50,000 to demolish. The vote was unanimous. The irony? Brenda had to pay the assessment too. She became a ghost. No more walks, no more critiques, no more power. Her house sold in a week, way below market. The day of demolition was a celebration. Neighbors gathered with lawn chairs and drinks, cheered as the excavator tore the building down. By sunset, it was gone, a blank patch of earth where a monument to arrogance had stood. But that's not the end. With the old clubhouse gone, the community rebuilt itself. Sarah proposed a community garden, open air, a space for everyone. No more thrones, no more closed doors. Neighbors who barely spoke before worked together, built raised beds, planted flowers and vegetables. The sense of connection, the healing, was real. I finally found the peace I wanted. My pool's still my private oasis, but now I understood. The battle had forced me to rediscover the skills and resolve I'd thought were behind me. The real satisfaction came not from shouting or fighting, but from outsmarting the system with cold, hard facts and patience. So what's the takeaway? Never underestimate the quiet guy who knows the rules better than the people enforcing them. Tyrants, whether in politics, business, or a tiny HOA, always think they're above the very codes they use to control others. Sometimes all it takes is one person willing to read the fine print to bring the whole thing crashing down. Was $50,000 to tear down a clubhouse over a stolen swim worth it? I say it was the best bargain of my life. What do you think? Drop a comment. Argue it out. What's justice in a neighborhood? Is revenge just another word for enforcing the rules? Let's hear your take. And if you enjoyed this saga of engineering vengeance, don't forget to share. After all, justice is a plan, and every great plan deserves an audience.